It is described by Jared Kynes as the cleverest thief because she not only steals from you, but she steals the very thing that you need to remember what's been stolen. Alzheimer's disease affects an estimated 5.7 million Americans, and it's the sixth cause of death among adults, fifth leading cause in senior adults. The director of the Institute of Aging, Dr. John Trzajanowski, says the epidemic is upon us. It is a very difficult thing to say to a patient that there's nothing we have for you, but that's the honest response. There are no disease-modifying therapies for Alzheimer's. As of 2018, in the state of Georgia alone, there are 140,000 adults 65 and older being treated for this disease. It is projected that by 2025, there will be an estimated 190,000 cases. Death from this disease has increased since 2015 at a rate of 123%. Which one of our family members are next? What if you or I become one of these statistics? Alzheimer's is defined as an irreversible neurological disorder that slowly deteriorates the brain, leading to memory loss and eventually death. It is the most common form of dementia, and it targets mostly senior adults. Every 65 seconds, someone in the United States is diagnosed with this disease, adding to the already 4.7 million. To give you an idea of what it's like to live with Alzheimer's disease, I want to walk you through a day of someone in the second stage, which is the moderate stage of Alzheimer's. Routine is extremely important for me. My moods are determined moment by moment. I'm accustomed to having breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the same time every day. I'm very difficult to deal with when it comes to showering, getting dressed, taking my medication, or even who I will allow to help me. When ordinary events like doctor's appointments are incorporated in my day, I flip my lid. I am very annoyed. I don't want to go. I don't want to get dressed. And I'm mad at anybody who makes me. Being out of my routine is like being forced into a movie where everybody around me is moving very fast. Everything is going in super speed, except for me. I'm going slow, and sometimes I'm even standing still, and everything is a blur. I'm very forgetful of events like my daughter's birthday, my wedding anniversary, dates that I've celebrated for years. And I tend to wander off and get lost sometimes. I'm not oriented to location or days of the week. I used to love being the life of the party, but now I just want to be very quiet in the corner, not mingling with anyone. It's almost impossible for me to control my bodily functions. It's as though I reverted back to a 3-year-old, and I need pretty much around-the-clock care. Sometimes I remember my caregiver, and sometimes I don't. And sometimes I look at people who call my name, and they're strangers to me. And this world is very scary. There are 3 stages of Alzheimer's, which is mild, moderate, and severe. Stage 1 is the mild stage where there's very little memory loss. And if you're not around me all the time, you probably won't pick up on it. Stage 2, which is the moderate stage. That's the longest stage with the greatest rate of decline. And that's where I'm disoriented to self and location. Stage 3 and the severe stage, that's where I'm no longer verbal, and I require 100% on my caregiver. There are 2 categories of Alzheimer's. One is early onset and the other is late onset. Now both of these categories, they're going to go through the same stages, the same 3 stages that I just told you about. But the difference in these 2 categories is when the Alzheimer's was diagnosed or identified. Anything before the age of 65, that that is early onset. Anything 65 and older, that is late onset Alzheimer's. It is not enough to know what causes the disease, or it's not enough to know what the disease is, but we also have to know what causes it. Researchers have been delving into this mystery for years, and there's so many factors that play a role in this disease. The three most prominent factors are lifestyle, health, and environment. Environmental factors that play a part in this disease, according to Newsweek, iron is one of those. And Newsweek says that iron acts like a rust to the brain. High amounts of lead also leads or is linked to Alzheimer's. And there was an interesting article in Scientific American that said that DDT, which is a toxin or a poison used in pesticides, that also links to Alzheimer's disease. Then we have life factors that influence the disease. And of course we have to mention the American diet. Everything, our American diet and the way we eat affects everything from cancers to diabetes. Well, it also affects your brain. Neurologist Dr. Suzanne Delamont Monte of Brown University classified Alzheimer's as a metabolic disease and even referred to Alzheimer's as a type 3 diabetes. Believe it or not, Neurobiology Aging published a study that showed lack of sleep and loneliness as linking to the disease. Then we have health factors, which are aging, genetics or hereditary, and brain plaques and tangles that are accumulated in the brain, and I'll talk about those a little bit later. Age is the greatest known risk of Alzheimer's. Now, the effects of Alzheimer's on the brain is very saddening, and it ultimately leads to death. In the mild stage, which you'll see right here, you have lots of gray matter. And you'll notice, as you go down to the most severe stage, you'll notice that this gray matter is disappearing, and so is your brain. In the mild stage, though, you'll have slight forgetfulness, like I said. You'll have trouble coming up with the right word to say, trouble coming up with the name of a person you were just introduced to. But things that happen in high school or things that happen in your younger adult time, that you'll remember just fine. That slowly goes away. But in this stage, and in stage 2 is where you're going to notice that it starts disappearing. You'll misplace things in stage 1, and planning and organizing things is very difficult. Stage 2, again, you're forgetful to your personal history. You're very difficult to deal with when it comes to hygiene, showering, taking your medications. You can't control your bowels or your bladder. You're starting to experience sleep pattern changes. You're very restless at night, and you tend to wonder. You become delusional, compulsive, repetitive. Those behaviors start to manifest in stage 2. In stage 3, this is where around-the-clock care is required. You have no awareness of recent events or surroundings, unable to walk, sit, and you eventually lose your ability to swallow. You have little to no communication or verbal skills, and you're very susceptible to illness and infection. This ruthless disease progresses, the once healthy neurons that communicated very well with each other stop. They die. And this is because the plaque that was mentioned earlier, and you're going to see this is a plaque buildup right here and right here. As that plaque builds up, you're going to notice that it's going to clump together, and it's going to build walls between the neurons and your synapses. And that's where communication is. you'll notice that this is the healthy brain and how large it is. This is an Alzheimer's brain. You'll notice, you'll see big, huge gaps. You'll start to see the holes in the brain. They get much larger. And that is because your brain actually is deteriorating. As the progression of Alzheimer's continues, it's going to conquer your hippocampus, which here is your normal hippocampus. This is where all of your long-term memory is stored. And this is very imperative for your ability to learn. Here, you'll see where it has shrank. It's lost its shape and it has shrank. Over time, the hippocampus, because of the tau protein buildups, will become useless. Which right here is a tau protein buildup. It's also called a tangle. So between the plaques and the tangles, your neurons die because they're not communicating anymore, and that's their job. So when they die, they don't come back. They're not replaced. When they die, they're gone. And that's when our brain starts to atrophy. The normal brain usually weighs about 3 pounds. This is a normal brain, and this is a cross-section of a normal healthy brain. This is a cross-section of a real Alzheimer's brain. This is 3 pounds, and this is 2 pounds. And that's because it's eaten away. It's almost like termites in your brain. It's eaten away, and there's actual holes in your brain. I tip my hat to all the caregivers of Alzheimer's patients. The patience and self-control they must have to properly take care of sufferers is no doubt overwhelming at times. Studies show that across the United States, over 1 year, a caregiver will give 18.4 billion hours accumulatively. That's all of the caregivers of all of the Alzheimer's patients, 18.4 billion hours. Alzheimer's, no doubt, is one of the scariest, heart-wrenching diseases one can endure. In doing my research, I couldn't help but to wonder as a nation, what are we doing to get in front of this? And are we looking for the key to the illness that is responsible for locking up so many minds? I have found that in 2011, Obama signed into a legislator an act called the National Alzheimer's Project Act, establishing framework to address the Alzheimer's crisis. And on multiple fronts, he is attacking this disease. Fronts like research, care, and support. And there are 5 goals that are hoped to be achieved in this act before it expires in 2025. Goals like preventing and effectively treating the disease, optimizing care quality, and extending support to patients and their families. I was also relieved to find that in 2017, national funding was increased from $400 million to $1.4 billion. Until the cure has been found, it is very important that we stay active. We have to exercise. We have to keep our minds engaged. And we should be ever so cautious of what we put inside of our bodies. This will not completely remove us from the Alzheimer's path, but at least we can do our part to try to slow it down. Thank you.